Okay, I think we are going to get going here. Welcome and thank you all for attending the Rausser College Summer Internship Grant Panel. I want to let everybody know that this event is being recorded and we will post the recording on our website when it is ready. My name is Elena Avila and my pronouns are she and hers. I am one of the undergraduate advisors and also an alumna of the college. I coordinate the Summer Internship Grant and will be your host for this event. Today, I am assisted by Temple Byers, who will be monitoring the questions you submit for our panelists. We are going to start off with a welcome from our Assistant Dean, Joshua Dullahan.
Thank you, Elena. Hello, everyone. As Elena mentioned, my name is Joshua Dullahan. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Instruction and Student Affairs. Welcome. First, I would like to acknowledge that UC Berkeley sits on the territory of Huchum, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone people. This land is of great importance to the Ohlone, and we recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. It is our hope that as we talk about the community that we hope to build at Rausser College and UC Berkeley, that is inclusive of the needs of American Indians and Indigenous peoples. So thank you for allowing me to acknowledge the land. In support of campus equity and inclusion goals, the Rausser College of Natural Resources Summer Internship Grant provides an opportunity for Rausser College undergraduates to participate in summer internships that advance their careers or academic interests. These opportunities may be otherwise unachievable without the assistance of the Summer Internship Grant due to a variety of barriers. We encourage internships in any field or discipline, but we require that applicants address in their personal statement how their work contributes to fostering greater social equity and inclusion. This grant is funded entirely by the generosity of Rausser College donors. If there are any donors watching our panel today, thank you so much for continuing to provide resources that allow our college to be at the forefront in inclusion and equitable practices, as well as in academic excellence. Today, you're going to hear from 9 of our summer 2021 grant recipients. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn things back to Elena Avila, who will moderate today's panel. And of course, go Bears.
Thank you, Joshua. A quick outline of what we are looking at today. So for today's panel, our grant recipients from this past summer will briefly share their internship experiences with you in the order that you see here. Then I will review the application criteria and timeline, which is also on our website. You will then have an opportunity to ask questions of our panelists by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation, and we will take time to answer them at the end and direct them to specific panelists as needed. So our first up is Kristin.
Hi, I'm Kristin. I am a second-year nutritional science student, and I'm also on the pre-med track. And so during the summer, I wanted to gain some medical experience in a third world country, so abroad. So I went through an organization, a nonprofit called Eli Abroad, and through that organization, I was able to find a location that I wanted to go to and a hospital that I could serve at. So I was placed in Uganda, in a small district called Iganga in the whole country of Uganda, and the hospital that I worked at was Iganga Hospital, and over there I was able to get some hands-on clinical work because in America it's hard to be hands-on because there's so many certifications you need to have, but in the third world country I was able to gain a lot of experience by like administering IV fluids, taking vitals, checking up on patients and all that kind of stuff. And I also got the opportunity to start a nonprofit over there as I met some women in the village. Me and one of my friends over there decided to start a nonprofit to help teenage pregnant adolescents or teenage mothers become educated and start a life for themselves. So that was another amazing plus of this experience that I had. And overall, if you ever want to go abroad and you want to go to a third world country or even another country, Eli Abroad is a great organization to go through. And yeah,
Thank you, Kristin. Next up is Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me and see me? Yeah? Okay. So my name is Jasmine Luna, and I'm a third year majoring. I'm an intended major in environmental economics and policy, and also data science with a co-teach minor. And this summer, I had the opportunity to intern at Street Code Academy as an instructional design intern, and I loved my time there. I honestly didn't know what I was expecting in my time there, but I love my time there because of Street Code Academy, social justice values. I feel like they very much align with mine. And I'm a first generation college student. And I'm trying to like succeed in the tech industry. And I felt that the work that I was doing with Street Code Academy had a meaningful impact, especially on like the younger generations, which made the experience 10 times, a million times better. So what I did as an instructional design intern was I provided resources necessary for communities of color, underrepresented communities, to build the bridge between the digital divide. And so, for example, like I was teaching and guiding coding classes, and I was able to have fun with students. They were younger students, like fifth and fourth graders, and it was so much fun because I remember one of my students was able to create an app like from scratch, a coding app, which was a game of him and his family dancing together. And this is a fourth grader. So it was so much like fun and like beautiful to see what our communities are able to achieve when provided the necessary tools and resources. So yeah, it was a great time, and I think I thank the College of Natural Resources for the grant because it made a big difference. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Next up is Kellen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kellen, and I am a third year student majoring in nutritional science on the toxicology track. And this summer, I was fortunate enough to continue my research at the UCSF Diabetes Center in Kristin Vase's lab, where the primary focus, or the overview focus of the lab, was the central regulation of energy homeostasis and the genetics of obesity. And to kind of go deeper into my project, much of the research I did focus on the melanocortin 4 receptor, also known as the MC4R receptor. And it is a G protein coupled receptor, and upon its activation leads to the decrease in food intake. And most of my research was on the mutations to this MC4R receptor, where mutations to the MC4 is one of the leading causes of monogenic obesity, which accounts for about 4 to 6% of all obesity cases. And even before and throughout my project, I was able to learn and implement many lab techniques. As you see in the pictures on the very right, shows me performing perfusions and surgeries on mice. The bottom middle picture shows me in the mouse house, or the UCSF building where they keep all the live rodents, where I measured food intake and weight of the mice, learned how to wean, set up breedings, and overall care for them. And finally, the very left picture shows me using a microscope at the UCSF Mission Bay campus to take images of my brain slices for image analysis and quantification. And aside from the lab experience, I was able to create many relationships with my principal investigator, or PI, and the postdoctoral students and the PhD students in the lab. And overall, their mentorship and feedback on my projects helped me become a better researcher, while also supporting me during the times where I messed up or did not live up to expectations. And not to mention, there were many social events, like we see in the top middle picture, where I kind of got to see their lives like outside of research and their work-life balance. And I really do believe that participating in this internship over summer was a great way to ultimately just have a better understanding of grad school, because I do want to pursue an MD PhD combined program after I graduate. And I was able to talk to many PhD and MD PhD students about their current experiences to get a better understanding of their work-life balance, like I said, their enjoyment of research, and whether this is something I really want to do or pursue in a long-term career-wise. And I think being a low-income immigrant, participating in unpaid or low-paid internships becomes very difficult for me because there are many financial barriers such as rent, food, or transportation that I have to consider before participating. And being awarded the internship grant removes many of these barriers, and it allows me to focus solely on my performance at the lab. And I honestly think that without the help of the grant, I would not have been able to take this opportunity. And in the end, I feel very grateful to the donors. Thank you, donors, and those who selected me for this grant that gave me an opportunity to further my education and career. Thank you.
Thank you, Kellen. Our next student had a class conflict. And so I will be playing a recorded presentation from Elena.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena Kwan and I'm currently a senior studying nutritional sciences as well as pursuing a minor in public policy. So this internship was through Harlem Grown that I had this summer, where I had the opportunity to work with an amazing nonprofit organization that is dedicated to increasing food security and also nutritional literacy in the Harlem community. And Harlem Grown has 3 different urban farm sites that I had the opportunity to volunteer at this summer. And I was able to intern to help harvest food for at-risk children while also increasing access and knowledge about nutrition in this community. During my internship with Harlem Grown, my focus was really for outreach dedicated to youth-facing food insecurity. And that could either be due to a lack of adequate nutritional support programs or simply due to food deserts in the Harlem community. So through Harlem Grown, I was working with the purpose of trying to alleviate some of this food scarcity by helping to develop the farm and also increasing access to fresh grown produce that was delivered directly to at-risk youth and their families. And during my internship, it was my goal to really try to educate some of these elementary school students about ways in which proper nutrition could serve as early prevention for chronic diseases and also a gateway to improve overall health and wellness. Through my internship, I was able to serve youth and families in the Harlem community where sometimes access to nutritionally dense foods could be either too costly or be very scarce. And as a student studying nutrition, I tried to use my background in nutrition to help educate younger students about how proper nutrition could improve learning, physical activity, and also overall health in general. And I also was able to learn ways in which we could better serve this population and try to improve food scarcity. And during my work with the farm, I was able to harvest produce for families and work on the urban farm where I had the opportunity to practice farming techniques and increase the output of fresh fruits and veggies that were delivered directly to Harlem residents. And during my internship, it was an amazing opportunity to begin community outreach by promoting nutrition education and also access to food scarcity, food security. And in the future, I hope to become a practicing physician assistant. And this experience with Harlem Grown helped me really understand how to better serve various communities who are facing a lack of resources through bridging the gap between nutrition education and also prevention of chronic diseases. And volunteering with Harlem Grown was an amazing experience. Thank you so much.
All right, next up, oh, sorry, I just heard that you couldn't hear the sound very well. Apologies for that. Next up is Monica.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone, I'm Monica and I'm currently a senior double majoring in political science and society and environment. And I'm also interested in attending law school in the future. So this summer, I interned for Jubilee Immigration Advocates, which is a nonprofit immigration law firm in San Francisco. It was a hybrid internship, so I went to the office twice a week. And because of my interest in pursuing law and because of my family background, I wanted to delve into the specific field of law and learn more about the processes. So my general responsibilities was to assist the attorneys with immigration casework, especially for Mandarin-speaking clients. And I communicated with the clients and also translated official court documentations and declarations. And I also performed general administrative duties. So the internship helped further my career and academic goal as it showed me the significant impact of immigration law. And through working with the clients personally, my interest in attending law school was affirmed as I wanted to help more people. And I also learned a lot from the attorneys working at the firm. And I believe that the work from this internship definitely helped foster and increase social equity and inclusion, since Jubilee mostly helps immigrants who otherwise are unable to afford the legal services that they need. So we only serve people who are low income or 250% or 500% below the federal poverty level. And we don't charge money for any of our services. And because of the founders' personal backgrounds, we also prioritize Asians and Pacific Islanders because they've often been excluded from other nonprofit legal organizations that serve other groups of people. And since I was responsible for contacting the clients, I was able to help these low-income or API clients resolve their immigration issues or file their immigration applications. And this meant that I could experience firsthand the impact of our work on the clients and the work of Jubilee. And this summer internship was an extremely rewarding experience. Since Jubilee is a nonprofit, my internship was unpaid. So I'm extremely thankful for the CNR summer internship grant that allowed me to not only learn a lot about the field of immigration for me personally, but also to help other people without worries about finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Next up is Andrea.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Salazar. I'm a junior transfer in the Ecosystem Management and Forestry major, or EMF for short, and I'm also an ethnic studies minor. This summer, I got to work in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area and Muirwoods National Monument in Sausalito, California, or in Headlands, really, which is the background picture I have. This was a program called Scientists in the Parks that was possible by a joint partnership between the National Park Service and the Ecological Society of America. And so my official title was Wildlife Intern. Excuse me. And some of the projects I got to work on were surveying northern spotted owls, working with coyotes, mission blue butterflies, San Francisco garter snakes, and many other species. Two of my favorite projects were surveying the owls. So we went out and looked at sites that we knew were nesting areas. And we just collected data on how their offspring were doing, their habitat, and let's see what else, and how they were progressing, basically, because they are an endangered species. And so this information is super important. And the second project I got to work on was with coyotes in the Marin Headlands. And so this was a first tracking project in the Marin Headlands. We looked at human-coyote coexistence in the WUI, or wildland-urban interface, and we just used this information to inform management on how we can create healthy boundaries between people and coyotes in the Marin Headlands. This internship provided me with my first fieldwork experience, so it definitely gave me the confidence as an ecologist. And it also exposed me to work outside of academia, so specifically what it's like to work with the federal government. And I didn't know this before applying, but they actually also granted me DHA, which is direct hire authority. So in the future, I'm now able to apply to jobs directly through hiring managers and bypass HR, and they can hire me non-competitively, which is really cool. And although my work didn't address social equity and inclusion directly, I made the argument that as a person who comes from a disadvantaged background, having access to these opportunities, given funding from this grant so that I can participate fully and get things like I need that are expensive, like gear, or not have to worry about food or transportation, can then allow me to build these skills and then bring it back to my community, which then allows us to make decisions for our own needs. Specifically, my interests are environmental needs for our communities, but there are many other needs.
Thank you. Also giving a shout out to your picture with the snake because they're awesome. It's really cute. Let's see here. Next up is Asher.
Hi there. I had to switch to my phone. My Wi-Fi went out. But yeah, so I'm Asher. I'm a third year studying MED and a minor in GIS. And so through my summer internship, I worked with the Young Lab from UC Santa Barbara. And I was on a field research team for 2 PhD students that were studying the effects of invasive trout on alpine lake communities. So basically, we were stationed in Mammoth at Snarl, which is a UC reserve station. Had like 5 different backpacks. We would backpack for like 5 days and then come back and process data and relax. And so out on those trips, there was a ton of different types of methods that we completed in order to collect the data. So one of the projects was looking at the effects of trout on insect subsidies from the lakes to the surrounding ecosystems. So that was collecting a lot of data on algae, chlorophyll, the insects that emerge from the lakes. And then the other project was more focusing on how trouts in lakes would have subsequently affected the plant and pollinator communities around the lakes. So those methods included a lot of vegetation surveys, pollinator surveys, pollinator collections. And so in these pictures, I tried to include most of the methods. You can see there's like a sticky card method, which kind of like tells you how far insects are emerging from a lake. And then you can see pinned insects. So those are like all different kinds of pollinators, different kinds of plants. And right above the pinned insects, there's how you do hand collections. So that's with a net. You collect them and then you put them in a jar where they die. And then up above that would be the insect emergent traps. So those basically sit on the lake for 24 hours, and then anything that emerges from the water gets trapped in there, and from there you can estimate how many insects are coming out of the lake. And then there's pan traps, which are the colorful bowls that just collect pollinators based on what color they're attracted to. And oh yeah, and then in the top left, there's also, we did depth bathymetry for one of the lakes. And so that's basically using a sonar device to calculate the depth right beneath the boat. So you basically kayak around the whole lake and then do a grid, and so they can get like an image of how deep the lake is, and then that can influence the other ecology. And yeah, so overall, this was a really great experience. I think it really solidified my love for fieldwork, especially like my love for fieldwork in ecology, and how it can all fit together in a project. Yeah, so I would like to thank the grant donors and CNR for supplying me this grant. I think it was really great to work in such a diverse team. It really was nice to see, I guess, people you don't typically see represented in ecology, and be able to work on a team like that was really fulfilling, and it really like solidified that I can go into ecology and be successful in it.
Thank you. And our last presenter is Trish.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. I am Trish. I'm a senior studying molecular environmental biology. And this summer, I was at the Oakland Zoo doing the animal care internship. And I specifically worked with primates here, so they're highlighted in all the photos. And during this internship, I worked closely with zookeepers to learn more about animal husbandry techniques, which involved cleaning the exhibits, feeding, training, and enrichment, as well as delivering with medication. And as a pre-vet major, or as a pre-vet student, I've gained invaluable experience through like shadowing, because I was able to go to the veterinary hospital, and there on the left you see one of our chimps in an operation, and she is getting an IUD in, as well as getting like her heart checked up, and that information is going to go into the UCSF Grade 8 Heart Project to further study heart failure in great apes and prevent that in their species. And I was also really interested in innovation and was able to get dip my toes in some behavioral research in order to develop new toys and play structures for these animals so that they can have a better time at the zoo. And it's really good for their mental and physical health. This internship helped increase social equity and inclusion, because as a first gen, like low income student, I would normally not be able to participate in an internship like this, and this grant really removed that barrier. Additionally, I was able to represent someone who's not normally seen as like within like the zookeeping field, and was able to like have really important conversations with my peers and zoo staff and the public about social sensitivity and other cultural practices when it comes to wildlife conservation, and represent different people and communities when we're thinking about conservation efforts. Also, the internship cohort just consisted of a wide range of people from different backgrounds, as in like pursuing different career paths. So it wasn't exclusive to like pre-vet students. So there wasn't a competitive nature to it. And they really just wanted your excitement and ability to like lift heavy buckets while you're working at the zoo. And yeah, I just wanted to thank again like the donors and the CNR staff who like made it possible for me to participate in this internship and gain more insight about the breadth of animal care jobs and wildlife conservation.
Hi, my name is Lexie, and I am a senior studying conservation and resource studies and sustainable environmental design. And this past summer, I participated in the summer internship program, and I did my internship with Pathloom. And Pathloom is a startup company. They're basically an outdoor education program. And so they're starting an app, and the purpose of the app is to educate people that may not have had the chance otherwise to learn about outdoor education. So they're compiling resources to learn about the outdoors and like how to get outside, and also making maps and of different places that people can go, and just compiling resources in that way. So for the internship, I was in charge of making some of the maps, and so I learned how to use different programs like Mapbox. I had used GIS before in a previous class, so I was able to learn more on this skill, and then also use Python, which I had never used before. And so I was creating a lot of the data, basically like places that people can camp, and finding that material and combining like trail maps and that sort of thing, and compiling it all into one place and coding it. So yeah, the purpose of Pathloom, or like I guess their mission statement, is to make the outdoors a more accessible place and more equitable. And I personally really agree with that statement. I was never really shown the outdoors until I was older, and so it really means a lot to me to have the opportunity to show it to other people, and to also like give people those skills. I was also able to work on some of the blog posts, and so the blog posts are also compiling more resources and sort of writing like different places that people can go, and resources for beginners who have never had the experience to explore like the outdoors or hiking or backpacking and have never had the chance. And yeah, essentially just working on building those resources and building the company as a whole. I believe their outdoor app is coming out in the next couple of months, but they're still working on it a lot. The emails just started coming out more. Yeah, it really just goes along with my studies in general, and I teach a class on backpacking, a decal class, and it was cool to work on a different side of that and to learn the programming skills that I wouldn't have learned otherwise without this research, without this opportunity. So I'm really grateful that I was able to participate in this internship over the summer and learn more skills. And I think I'll be able to use these skills for the rest of my life and hopefully in other positions. And it's neat that I was able to do something I love at the same time.
Thank you to all of our students for sharing your internship experiences with us today. It was really great to hear all about what you guys have been doing over the summer and all that you gained from those experiences. To our listeners, if you haven't done so already, feel free to enter your questions for our panelists using the Q&A button. While you're doing that, I want to very quickly review the application criteria and the timeline before we get to Q&A. So please also note that this information is available on our website, which I have listed at the top here. The application is open to Rausser College students who receive need-based financial aid during the current academic year and with a fall estimated graduation term or later. What this means is that students who receive aid in the 21-22 academic year that we're in right now and have an expected graduation term of fall 22 or later will be eligible to apply for next year's grant to support summer 22 internships. Students ineligible for federal financial aid may still apply for the grant if they can demonstrate financial need, but may only be awarded on a funding available basis. Summer internships must last at least 4 weeks. They can be unpaid or low paid, and the student should not be earning units for the internship work. Students must submit a personal statement, resume, and a budget for consideration. Our website has resume resources and a budget template for you to use. As Joshua mentioned at the beginning, the personal statement must include a description of how the internship helps foster or increase social equity and inclusion. This is important and should be addressed directly in your statement as it is a central focus of this grant opportunity. The application opens in mid to late March and is announced in an email communication to all current students in the college and on the grant website. Another plug to read your emails from the college so that you don't miss opportunities like these. The application is due in mid to late April. Notifications of grant status are sent to applicants by the end of the spring semester, which is in early to mid-May, and funds are usually dispersed by the end of May. Awards range from a few $100s up to $3,000, depending on the student's need and proposed budget. I really, really strongly encourage all of the students who might meet the grant criteria to apply. You can start thinking about possible internships early and preparing yourself to be the best candidate for internship opportunities by checking out the resources on the UC Berkeley Career Center website. In addition, we also have helpful links for finding internship on our website in the useful links section on the left side of the page. Okay, so we will go to questions. Again, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We will collect your questions, read them out loud, and call on students to which the question is directed. To get us started, I'm going to ask panelists to jump in to answer a couple of questions. How did you find your internship and when did you start looking? Feel free to jump in, anyone.
I can go first. So I found the Oakland Zoo internship just by looking at like animal care, like just like doing a Google search of like animal care internships or like internships to work with animals. And I started looking. I know that apps generally are due like around like winter break in January or February. So I started looking around like Thanksgiving break. It's kind of like the timeline for that. Also, Handshake is like through Berkeley is an invaluable resource. Like I didn't originally find the Open Zoo internship on Handshake, but later I like saw that it was on there. So I would definitely utilize that resource.
I could go next. So the way I found my internship was through a college readiness program. So they were able to provide me with a list of and summer internships, and that's how I found mine. But I've been using Handshake, and I think it's a really useful tool because you could like filter what kind of internships are you looking for. It could be paid, non-paid. So I would suggest looking into Handshake. It's a really helpful tool.
I can go next. So I also used Handshake and LinkedIn a lot, and I started looking in the spring semester, so a bit later than most people. But for Jubilee Immigration Advocates, I actually found it because my friend from a student organization that I was in worked there in like a previous summer. So she shared about the opportunity. So like if you know other upperclassmen or people like in the same discipline, you can also like network and talk to them and see whether they have opportunities there as well.
I could go next. I think for students who are especially interested in getting molecular biology or just any type of research work that takes place in a lab setting, I think the best way to do that is just to cold email any professor, because I found it, I found that like just honestly Spur and URAP to be decently competitive since they are open to like a large majority of students. And I found that just by cold emailing and just setting up like a one-on-one interview with or like a meeting with a PI or a professor like brings you a much more closer relationship that allows you to, you know, more likely get a lab opportunity. And if you would like a more of a smaller lab setting, I would say I'm looking at labs like outside of Berkeley, like UCSF or Chori, which is the Children's Hospital, or the Oakland Children's Hospital Research Institute. They have much like smaller labs than Berkeley, because I know a lot of Berkeley students want to research at Berkeley because it's like much closer, but yeah.
I found my internship through like a email serve list or something. I typically just subscribe to a bunch of like, I don't know, organizations on campus or organizations off campus. And then I just go through my emails. College of Natural Resources has a good resource and just lists a bunch of stuff. And so then I'll just find myself kind of sifting through all that and figure out like which one do I want to apply to. I also let other people know that I'm looking, and then they'll just think of me and just forward it to me, and just ask around and Google like other folks already said. And I typically try to search probably a semester before. So I think I was looking the fall previous to this summer.
Awesome. Thanks for the plug for our weekly emails that go out every Monday that students should be receiving. We definitely post various kinds of opportunities there for students as well. So how did you decide, this is a question that came in from somebody, how did you decide which internship was right for you? If you're looking at all these internships, like how do you select one?
I could go first. So I think I went, the way I chose the internship that I wanted to apply to was by looking at their mission statement and making sure that their values aligned with mine. You know, like social justice, equity, and like just like values that I think are important to me, and like I'll feel more comfortable working with an organization or an industry that share the same values. Yeah.
I can go next. So I'm planning on applying to like veterinary school, and the application requires a ton of like different experiences with animals, whether it be like exotics, research, shelter, private practice. And so the way I structure is kind of figuring out like what I think I'd be most interested in. And for me, that's like giving like access to like animals that don't, I guess I kind of lean more towards like shelter medicine and like exotic animals, like those that aren't really owned by people, and like have a more like conservation based focus to it. And so I probably like focus on that and kind of do like a shotgun approach where like I apply to as much as possible and hope that like one responds back to me. But just trying to like find one within like a general range of interest and evaluating like how much I can learn or gain like from that internship, and like if I would be learning anything new.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what Trish said. For me, it has shifted over time. So at first I would apply to almost anything because I just wanted to say I did an internship. But then I think as you move more towards like your career goals, you want to start looking at things that align with what you're going to be doing in the future. And so I found myself doing a lot of peer advising and academic work prior to transferring and like more community-based stuff, which is important to me. But when I become a more official scientist in the future, I want to be able to say I did this and I did that. And so I was looking at things that like I was just thinking like, okay, if I apply for this job in the future, I want to be able to have this skill. So what internships now are going to develop those skills that I can then have and then say when I'm applying to these positions, oh, I've already done this. And so then I can easily transition into that workspace or that field or whatever it may be. And also looking for internships that value me as a person. I think funding and like being able to be paid is very important because oftentimes as like interns, like we just kind of take whatever, and I didn't necessarily want to just do that anymore. And so I was making sure that I was applying to places that would offer me not only learning and skills, but also like benefits like being paid and like direct hire authority, which is what I got, and other opportunities and like networking.
Let's see here. Someone asked if you can start getting internships in the summer going into your sophomore year, or what is the typical year to start getting internships? I think students can get internships at any level. I mean, if I'm kind of looking at the array of students here on this panel, let's see here. Jasmine, you were just leaving your sophomore year and going into your junior year. Let's see here. And I think I do see a lot of students doing it in their summer after their junior year, but I think it's kind of more up to the internship to what kind of qualifications that they're looking for. But I say, yeah, get started, look at them, apply. You never know what you might get. And those are, if you're able to participate in those experiences. But I think a lot of it has to do with the criteria that the internships are looking for. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think at least for research, there's really, or in a lot of research areas, there's always help needed. So I think it's mostly a matter of emailing enough people, like cold emailing enough people and just seeing who replies and who needs help. And then just seeing if you actually want to do the job that they have for you.
Any advice for students that are either searching for or getting started for starting an internship someplace? Maybe things you wish you would have known as you were starting an internship or looking for one.
I can go. So just a piece of advice as well. So I actually just Google searched different organizations that would provide internships abroad, but I would also be very careful when doing that too, because you don't know which nonprofits are going to take advantage of you or not. and make sure if you are going to a different country that you are getting your time, it's going to be worth your time, and you're not going to just be doing paperwork all day. For example, if you're in the healthcare, you want to work in the healthcare field, try to find an internship that will allow you to be hands-on and will allow you to see patients and interact with doctors and interact with other people there instead of just being in the front desk or being in the back. So I would, if you're looking to go abroad or if you're looking for internships, I would say, and if you're Google searching, to be very cautious and wary of different organizations, because nonprofits can be a little bit tricky sometimes and they can cheat you off sometimes. But yeah, I would say try to lay out all your options and find out which nonprofit is the best for you if you're going through a nonprofit.
My advice would be to have people read your essays and your statements when you're applying, as well as stay organized, like creating like an Excel sheet to keep track of like which ones you're applying to and like decisions and stuff. And the last thing would be like look for grants and scholarships that could potentially pay for that experience so that you aren't limited, similar to like a summer internship grant like by CNR.
Some advice I have is kind of echoing what the other panelists already said, is have people look at your stuff. If you're unsure about an opportunity, have someone else look at it to make sure that it's not like false advertisement or whatever. Also getting started early. And then another piece of advice that I have is just apply to everything, even if you don't meet a qualification. Like for example, my internship this summer, not really a qualification, but like they wanted someone who had a vehicle and I don't have a vehicle. And so I said, you know what, it'll be great practice anyway to just submit my application and get feedback at the least. But ended up that they selected me and they accommodated me, which was really nice. And so I think don't ever let things like that keep you from applying. And let's see, yeah, I think that's probably my biggest advice, is just apply. And a lot of these internships will have the same type of questions. And so as you start applying to more and more, you'll just be able to kind of shift them a little bit for each application and be able to cover a lot more in a short amount of time.
Okay. Another question that came in for lab internships. How much were you expected to know, coursework, lab techniques, etc., before entering the lab?
I think I answered this one, but I'll answer it again just for everyone else. I think for me, I had absolutely zero knowledge like coming in. I think like most, if you're planning on joining a molecular lab, they at least expect you to like take Bio 1A or like Bio 1AL, which is the molecular biology course at Berkeley, but I did not even take that, so I had absolutely like no knowledge coming in. But and it was okay because I feel like it's much more niche than Bio 1. I think Bio 1 is a very broad topic of molecular biology, and you're kind of going a little bit more specific. So you don't need to know all like the excess like material that they do give you, but you will soon, but like not in like the certain lab settings, just only like the very basic things. And a lot of the information and the techniques they'll teach you, and you'll get better, I think, just as you read more scientific papers, just get more involved. And I think the biggest learning curve is just starting, because at first you're gonna have no idea what's going on. Like even for me, I think for like the first like couple of months, I had no idea like what the project was or like exactly what they're doing research on. But I think just being in that environment just helps you become, just more used to the lab lifestyle and what research really is.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things for lab work is to really show that you have an interest and a passion in what they're researching. Because even if you don't know the specific lab skills or know like the depth of knowledge on the specific thing they're researching, if you have and you can show that you're interested and passionate about what they're researching, that means that you will learn faster, you'll have the passion to learn more, even outside the lab setting. And that is what they really want. They want you to, they need help with the project, but they also want their assistants to be interested in what they're learning as well.
Okay. I think we've gotten through the questions that have been submitted. Is there anything else? I'll wait a moment in case another question comes through. Anything else from our panelists that you wanted to share with those viewing? Okay. Well, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. If you find that you have questions later, feel free to send your questions to the email address here, cnrgrants@berkeley.edu, to contact me, and I will answer your questions there. And I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge our Rausser College and Office of Instruction and Student Affairs deans, including our Assistant Dean, Joshua Delahan, as well as the Dean's Office staff and our College Relations Office staff for their administrative support of this grant. Thank you again to our student panelists for sharing your experiences today, and to Temple for helping to moderate this event. And a very special thank you to our Rausser College donors for making this grant possible. Thank you, and I wish everyone a great fall semester. Take care.